How's it going, everyone? I'm SirJames coming at you guys with another lightsaber video, and this time we have Ahsoka Tano's Lightsabers. These are the newer releases from TXQ, and these hilts were sent my way courtesy of ArtSabers. So as always, if you are interested in these hilts or just anything that I've been reviewing lately on this channel, you can go ahead and check the link in the video description down below to get your hands on these, or just check out what they have available and what kind of deals you could find nonetheless. Now, before we get straight into it, of course, I just want to mention that you probably noticed something a little different, and that is, yes, Sir Mannequin, buddy of mine who's been here hanging out in a lot of my videos for over a couple years, 3 years, shoot, I don't know how long it's been. He's no longer with us today. He has moved on to better things, so yeah, that's why it's kind of barren right there. I'm hoping to change this kind of background a little bit. I want to get some new shelves that I could display more things on and put some board games up and things like that. So eventually I'll get that worked out, hopefully soon, or before the end of this year, give or take. But anywho, you guys aren't here about my whole history, background, whatever. You guys are here about these. So yes, Ahsoka Tano's lightsabers. You know, besides her Clone War sabers, I'm a big fan of her Rebel sabers. These are definitely up there with one of my favorites. Now, granted, I'm still not, you know, great with dual-wielding lightsabers. Double-bladed sabers still my way to go. But let me go ahead and give you guys a closer look at these things because they are, again, really, really neat. So here is, of course, the longer one of the two. Here's a little bit of a full shot in my hand, if you will. Pardon my little injury here. Now, right now, I have these equipped with the display emitters, which we'll touch upon in just a moment. Now, for this one, if you wish to take it apart to access the internals, you will have to remove this screw, this one, and these two small ones to pop off this entire panel, just so you're aware. But I'll show you an example of one of them in just a bit. Now, you also notice that here you got a weathering effect as far as the D-ring and the little giblets here, and this is like the only section that is weathered. Now, on mine, it is not as heavily weathered as it would be out of the box. That's because I dubbed down the weather a little bit by sanding some of it off, just because I felt like it was too heavy, but I got it to the point where I felt like it was just right. And then here's the other side. Now, of course, this is a 2-button setup. The main button is going to be located right here, and secondary button is the little nub sticking out towards the front. And this will be using a 7/8 blade. And here is the shoto hilts, the smaller of the two. Now, in order to get access to the internals on this one, a lot easier because you only have to remove 1 and 2 screws in order to pop the panel off. Again, same thing here, 2-button setup, main button, secondary button. Now, as I mentioned, of course, you can't just put a blade in these because you will need to use an accessory that is provided in the box, which is this. This is the accessory that you're going to have to attach once it focuses here in order to use it with the blade. Both of them are identical with a total of 3 retention screws. In order to use this, it's quite simple. You're just going to go ahead and remove the top here, the display emitter. And the reason why you need to use the adapter is because, as you can see, there's no way to attach your blade. I mean, we're going to clip it onto, right? It's no possible way. But once you add these, as you can see, you do have a little bit of room to attach a blade and secure it with the 3 retention screws, and it's going to be the same on both sides. However, as I get prepared to put a blade in these things, I want to go ahead and give you guys the opportunity to check out what they look on the inside. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and take one of these apart so that way you can go ahead and see what the internal sections look like. But to kind of give you an idea, first off, the larger one, if you're kind of curious how to take this one apart, this one has a couple extra steps versus the shoto one. For example, on this one, you're going to be removing this screw here, which removes this entire panel. Then you're going to go ahead and remove this larger screw. And there's 2 more smaller ones that you need to take off in order to take this whole thing apart. However, I'm going to be doing the demonstration with the shoto one of the 2. This one, again, has lesser things to remove because unlike the larger one where you have those 2 screws in the center, here you just have to remove the larger one that's going to be located up here and the small one down here. Once you do so, you're going to go ahead and easily remove the side panel here. Comes off at the midway part. It's a little kind of magnetic, just like that. On the inside, on both hilts, you're going to have this 3D printed component that's of course housing the internals inside, and this is pretty neat because it's also magnetic, just like that. Once you remove that, you're going to go ahead and see the internals. And once that is out of the way, as you can see, you have your removable battery, and you also have your USB-C charging port located right up here next to your board. As mentioned, this is the Proffie board version. And what's also neat, and a little bit of a pain at the same time, is your kill switch is also in here. The pain in the butt part is, of course, you're going to have to remove all the screws just to get to the kill switch and to charge it. But at the same time, if you're just going to have it on display, then it's nice to go ahead and do that and remove the battery, which has got this nice little pull tab right here. And everything goes back together with ease. Again, you're just going to go ahead and take the part. It's only going to fit one way. Take your other section, put that back on. Again, it's only going to go one way. And then, of course, put the other pieces back on. It's as simple as that. Alright, welcome back, everyone. Of course, we already have the blades installed on these things. Like I said, pretty straightforward. Just unscrew the display emitter. Pop in the one that, of course, you're going to be able to use the blade with. Pop in your 7/8 blade and secure the 3 retention screws. It's as simple as that. And then you are pretty much ready to go. Now, of course, I'm not going to bother wielding both because, you know, again, I can't really wield 2 different lightsabers in the hand. Makes it a lot harder. Something that's more fitting is using just the one right here, especially if you're familiar with the Ahsoka Tano series, which I can't wait for season 2 nonetheless. But we're going to go ahead and turn off the light right now, and that way you can go ahead and listen. Now, basically, the fonts are the same on both regardless, but I'll switch off between the 2. Just honestly, between the 2, I like the much larger one because it feels good in the hand, and especially when you're wanting to have both hands gripped onto the hilt, it's just more fitting for that kind of samurai-ish type feel, if you will. So we're going to go ahead and begin. Now, something you might be noticing already, again, I'm on one of the 2 loudest saber fonts by default with the package, and the audio doesn't sound super crazy or super loud. And that's because, well, I'll just kind of mention it here, but I'm going to give you guys a better example after we kind of go through a little bit of the saber fonts here, is my one issue that I have with the Hilts. And it's kind of a thing that I felt like they could have easily prevented, possibly. Again, typically in my reviews, I throw like little nitpicks in there. You know, nitpicks are just nothing more but personal opinions, things like that. They're never anything minor. Yeah, I mean, they're never anything major, I should say. This one I feel is more of a major point to kind of indicate here, is that the speaker on these new Ahsoka Tano lightsabers aren't necessarily the best. Well, it's not the speaker's issue, it's the way the sound ventilation is handled on the lightsaber. And that's because, well, the thing is, there's not a lot of areas, as you can see, for sound ventilation to travel to. It's like, where's the holes? I mean, there's a hole like underneath this metal plate when it's removed, which you'll see in the video that I'll be clipping here in just a few minutes. But other than that, again, a lot of the audio is trapped within the hilt, and it doesn't escape it properly. And it could have been handled a little bit better. But again, like I said, the one main issue is just the way sound ventilation is handled. But other than that, like I said, as far as how the hilt feels in the hands, how it handles, It feels great. I don't really have any other issues besides that. The weathering bit, like I said, that I kind of sanded off, is not really, it might be a nitpick for some people. For me, it's not that big of a deal. I like a little bit of weathering on the hilt, but it was easy to kind of tone down till I got it to where it felt just right.
Tell me, is this training? My training? No. Always training.
Again, it's kind of weird just wielding the lightsaber and not being able to have that loudness appear in the video. It's going to sound dull because in reality,
No joy in this victory. We shall find. Too many killed on both sides.
because again, in reality, it is dull. The sound is dull. Let me go ahead and bring over the Shoto one. Skip to a few fonts here. Again, this is the other saber font on here. That's also considerably the loudest next to the dark saber. Again, you guys know I like the saber font, but it's not as loud as I would like it to be. Now, I will admit that the blade I'm using on the Shoto one is probably a little bit longer than it should be. Just because I couldn't find my other one, to be honest. In fact, let me bring both. Have these on at the same time. So we're on the speeder bike. I always forget my ceiling is a low ceiling. There we go. So we're gonna have both of these on at the same time. Ready? In 3, 2, 1. Uh-oh. I set off the bomb. We're gonna keep that in there. That's the I think it's from Hasbro, the Green Goblin bomb thing. I thought it was cool. I wanted to get it. I forgot I'm using a longer blade than normal. Now, when these are together, you get a nice, almost like, you know, proper sound. But again, we're in a more of a quiet room in this situation. Now, as I get ready to adjust for final conclusions, I want to go ahead and give you guys a proper example of what I was talking about in terms of audio. Alright, so to kind of give you a better idea of what do I mean about the sound quality issue, the one thing that I'm kind of nitpicking at, if you will, this one is a legitimate negative for sure, is obviously when it comes to lightsabers, typically, for the most part, depending on the design of course, is your speaker would be facing downwards, audio is traveling down, and there's of course speaker ventilation for the holes and so forth. Typically with double lightsabers, you know, the sound escaping through the center, and then you got ventilation holes with the connector and so forth and so on and so on. You pretty much already know this by now. Of course, when it comes to Ahsoka's lightsabers, because they're a lot thinner, the speaker isn't laying flat, it's now laying to its side. So in this case, when the speaker's laying on the side here, the main speaker is facing this way. So which means that when it comes to audio escaping, you only have this small little section here. And the thing is, obviously I have some of the parts removed off the hilts. And we're going to kind of get there in just a minute. And the thing is, when you have everything attached, even at the highest setting, the audio is still pretty muffled as far as the lightsaber goes. It isn't quite clear as you would hope for it to be. And I think what they should have done is these little slits here, I think they should have gotten something with a little bit of a thinner tool here and cut actual holes within those grooves, at least on this side where the speaker is facing. So to kind of give you a little bit of a better idea, I currently have this set on the Dark Saber font because it's one of the 2 sound fonts on here, which is the loudest. But to go ahead and demonstrate. Now obviously in this scenario, the only thing I have on right now is just my computer behind the camera, and that's it.
I'd put that on ice if I were you.
Now I know what you're saying, that doesn't sound bad, right? But get this. I'm going to go ahead and remove this panel right here, specifically this one piece. Set it to the side. Now the speaker, again, is facing this way. And it might not be easy to see, but inside this little hole here, you could actually see a quarter of the speaker. But now that that panel is removed, audio will be able to travel freely this direction, and of course this direction, but mostly this way. Now let's go ahead and turn this back on. Huge difference, right?
You are fighting against the blade.
So again, that's just kind of the example I wanted to give so that way you know where I was coming from when I mentioned that the audio is a bit more muffled when all the parts are together, and I think they could have done better in terms of sound ventilation on this Hilts. But let's go ahead and get back to the rest of the review. Alright, welcome back everyone. I hope that clip was able to give a more proper example of what do I meant about the audio issues with the Hilt. When everything's all connected, it's more muffled, but when you start removing like the screws or even just one of the side panels, it's much more louder and crisp, how you would expect it to be. But again, that's my only one disappointment with the Hilt. Other than that, I think the Hilt looks great. I like the fact that not only do we have a display emitter, but we also have an emitter to be able to use it with the blade. Of course, you know, if you wanted to wear these in terms of cosplaying or at conventions or just take them with you, you got your D-ring option located right here as well. Like I said, if you're not a fan of the weathering element, you can, for the most part, clean it off completely if you wanted to. It's not that difficult. If I was able to do it, you can do it as well. But like I said, when I got it, the weather was a lot more heavier, and I just toned it down to where I had much more of a result that I liked. But again, that part wasn't a big deal nonetheless. But what do you guys think about these Ahsoka Tano lightsabers? Let me know in the comment section down below. And don't worry, I have a bunch of great other products to review for you guys. I have a Vader's Vaults exclusive, the Duality. I also have Mara Jade's lightsaber. I believe that's how you say her name. And quite a few other ones nonetheless. So I am back. Saber reviews are going to be continuing on this channel in a normal state as I have stuff available to review, of course. But nonetheless, I hope you guys look forward to the next review, which is going to be out sooner than later. Until then, you have a wonderful week. And always remember, may the Force be with you.